Alright, it is time for another video. Let's show the progress that we made so far. So on the last video, I showed the top frame, aluminum top frame. Got a couple of more aluminum tubes, square tubing. I'm going to build this top section out, make it a square, come all the way down to there, and then I will add supports from there down to the frame on both sides, that side and this side. I have to cut this beam here and move it slightly forward because my measurements for the mounting points on the U-joint were off. So I'm probably just gonna take that, flip it upside down on some cardboard, trace it out, make a template, and then I can cut space, cut, drill the holes for the bolt holes for them to go through. Then I will mount both of the cross members, essentially the upper frame, to this, so that way I know exactly the spacing I need, and then weld it back up, and that will pretty much be the top frame and the U-joint section done. And then I need to cut the motors off of the old trolley system. As you can see, I cut the old cut the U-joint out of the old base trolley. Got to cut the motors out of the motor trolley and then get those mounted onto this front trolley here. As for the new mid frame, as you can see, it's mostly done. I ordered two of these 2-inch by 3-inch 4-foot pieces. Use one of the 4-foot pieces as the spine that the rails will mount to, and then measure the back piece to the same width as the lower frame there, because those two caster wheels are going to be going onto the back of that frame, on the back side of that piece there. I first bought these 2-inch angle iron, and they were basically, you saying hi? Okay, get that scratch. So basically, the 2-inch ones, I was gonna mount this way, turn this upright, and then mount them that way. But these plates, the side plates, are only 4 inches, and so if I mounted this vertically, then it would be taller than the plates, and you couldn't get the threaded rods above and below. So basically, I redid my mid-frame to be exactly like Dr. ADHD 1's, like literally exactly like his. This will be mounted to the lower traction loss frame here, and then I'll run all of the motor cables and potentiometer cables through here. As you can see, I made some cuts in the top of the beam and drilled some holes in that beam before the hole saw broke. I got, what did I get, four holes in that before the damn thing broke. And then just decided I was just going to cut these channels with a grinder. But basically the reason why I did that is weight reduction. These two pieces together were very, very heavy, and then once you add these two 4-foot angles on there, it is pretty heavy. Not nearly as heavy as the old mid-frame. I do believe that's still heavier by a significant margin, but wanted to try and reduce as much weight as possible from this. Any part that's basically not the lowest frame, the lowest frame doesn't move. Every other frame moves. This one, again, will have its actuation point at the front, and it's only gonna move side to side, and only 2 feet total, something of that nature. So this one's not nearly as important as the top frame, because the top frame is going to be moving, you know, it's going to be sliding back and forth, and then these motors will be pitching and rolling the chassis as well. So the top frame being super light is very important, but I still want the bin frame to be as light as possible so I don't overtax the motors. I was using that motor there, this motor here, and this motor back here for the traction loss and the surge, but I'm pretty certain that these motors, the gear ratios on them isn't as good as my other motors, like these ones and the ones I have in the G seat. So I'm going to disassemble I'll disassemble the G seat and get 2 of the motors from there, and I'm pretty certain both the motors, there's 2 sets of motors on the G seat. They're different sets. I'm pretty sure both of those are going to be better than these here. So I'm going to get those, replace those motors, figure out a way to mount the new ones to the new mid-frame, and then that should give me more torque, hopefully, by doing that. And it's mainly just for this, for the surge motor. I want to make sure that's nice and powerful and can really throw the rider. You know, the more spontaneous and snappy the movement, the more you can replicate, you know, extreme acceleration and deceleration. So in order to be able to have snappy movements, you need a very powerful and torquey motor, along with trying to reduce the weight as much as possible. So as you can see, I got a welding table. Not sure if I mentioned that in any of my other videos, but I've got it set up. And then I've got my MIG flux core welder right there. And then I've got the aluminum spool gun right there. And then that goes over to the titanium welder with the argon. So I've got pretty much both my welders set up so I can switch very easily between steel and aluminum. I have a welding table to weld on, so I can at least somewhat make sure that I can keep things straight, and these fixtures and stuff, being able to pin things down, hold it down, and make sure it doesn't move when you know, hit it with the MIG especially, is very nice. So yeah, the agenda for today is get the motors mounted on here. I'll get this welded onto this trolley after I get it mounted onto the top frame and get those spaced properly. Then get a plate, you know, cut something off there, weld a plate there, cut a hole in it for all the wires to pass through, and then potentially get the motors mounted in back there. Well, my cigarette went out. So so that's pretty much the agenda today. As for the control box, that is pretty much going to be completely redone. I got these connectors here that I'm going to use. I've got the 3 pins are for the potentiometers. The 2 pins are where's the 2 pin? The 2 pins are for the motor, and I want to keep them separated just so that way, like, I do have a couple of these that are 5 pin, and so I could combine the motor and the potentiometers into the same piece, but I'm not sure if the current running from the motors will cause too much noise on the potentiometers, and I definitely don't want that. So I'm just to avoid that, just keep them separated. Probably gonna rebuild the box entirely because I'm switching to 24 volt. I'm gonna put the 4 24 volt LEDs, LED power supplies. Each one of the motors will get their own 600 watt. I might not do that. I might only do 2. But since I'm doing parallel IBT2s, I kind of wanted each IBT2 to have its own path into the PSU instead of how I have it now where they're combined. And so they still split the thermal and power load, but they don't get individual power from the PSUs, and I don't have redundancy set up. Whereas if I did 4 PSUs, I could have, you know, the IBT2s for one motor go to one PSU, and then the second set of IBT2s for that same motor go to a different PSU. So in case something happened with one of the PSUs, I would still have one of the IBT2s on one of the motors on a separate PSU. But I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'll probably just set it up with the 2 PSUs first, see how that goes. But mainly I just want to get the electronics actually in a box. This will be the first time that I have them contained and somewhat professional looking. So that's also on the agenda. Got a bunch of stuff to be able to solder the thick cables. When I redo the electronics, I was using like was it 16 gauge? I want to say I was using like 16 gauge wire, this super thin wire here for the motors. So I got this 12 gauge, which, you know, can I get a side by side? Not really. It's significantly thicker than those little 16 gauge wires. So I'll be rewiring all of the power to the motors and the IBT2s to the LED power supplies. All of these will be replaced with the 12 gauge as well. I bought some soldering stuff. I mainly bought that just for the flux, but having a tip tinner and having a tip cleaner in there will be nice. So I should be able to actually solder all of those correctly. And then I did get some lugs. One second, I'm just moving things around. I did get some lugs right here back when I was still planning on connecting everything to a battery. I was going to have all those lugs connect to the end of the battery clamp. So battery clamp like so, and then it has this bolt here. I used these little connectors, but they're open-ended connectors, so they can slide out, and having 5 of them connected, 4 or 5 of them connected all at one time is very difficult to have these all pushed in while you rotate the nut. So tired of messing with that, just going to replace all that, and going to replace all that with the PSUs. But if I still want to do the battery, then I'm going to put lugs on all the stuff. So this is the latest update. I'm going to get to work and try and get as much done as possible. Talk to you guys later.